Hi, Wendy Coulter. Thank you so much for joining me and being a guest on our Resilient Entrepreneur Show.
Hi, Kate. Good to see you this morning.
So, you are the founder and CEO of Hummingbird Creative Group and have been an entrepreneur now for 30 years, just celebrated your 30-year anniversary, right?
Yes, it was exciting. Had a wonderful party with a lot of local people showing up, showing their support for my journey and the company, and it was just amazing.
What an incredible milestone and achievement. So, tell us a little bit about Hummingbird Creative.
Well, so Hummingbird, I founded Hummingbird in 1995. And I have a lot of entrepreneurship in my family. And so my grandfather owned gas stations and supermarkets. And so he was the smart one because he was providing things people needed for their lives. I've got an uncle with a successful HVAC company, and then my parents owned a small shoe store. And I was doing marketing and promotion when I was really young. I was riding in the town parade. I was up on an elephant in front of the shoe store. I would go on the radio and play guitar, and I did not know how that would tie into what I would do later in life. I went to school of design at NC State, and I got degrees in architecture and industrial design. But I founded Hummingbird while I was on a job search and I had landed some freelance work. So I was doing the gig economy back when there was no such thing as a gig economy, and just kind of fell into running my own business. So I learned a lot of lessons along the way. Today, Hummingbird is a brand strategy and full service branding and marketing firm. We have helped thousands of brands take flight. I've got an amazing staff, and I love strategizing with all of our great clients to understand the essence of their brand. And my passion is to provide them branding solutions that are going to help them increase their business valuation when they go to sell the business, merge with another business, or when they're trying to find funding out in the marketplace.
I love that. And you are so supportive of other business owners and entrepreneurs.
I
So I love
love,
the take flight, helping businesses take flight with their brand and their marketing. I love that.
yes,
Um, and you have held a lot of leadership roles as a board member and a volunteer with many women in business organizations here in the Greater Triangle area, like WBON and NABO, we've talked about, the Women Business Owners Hall of Fame, which I think you started and have won, Enterprising Women, and then the NCER Women Executive Group, just to name a few. So, obviously, building and supporting other women, business owners, and founders in our community is important to you and also a passion for you. So, thank you for
absolutely.
all of your volunteerism as well.
Yeah, I love supporting women. I love mentoring young women. Um, it was a harder road at times for me as a woman entrepreneur, and I just think it's so important to celebrate and honor the women who came before us, and then also really help lift up younger women who want to do this, and help it be a easier path for them. I think.
I love that. Well, thank you for starting all those communities that I have become a member of and joined as a guest, and very much looking forward to learning more from the wisdom that you've gained in 30 years as a business owner. This is my short questions, short answer section. So, who was your first hire in your business?
That was a graphic designer.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
And what is your best software tool that you are using daily that you just cannot live
So we have customized Asana project manager, and we use it like it's the one thing that has to be up on my desktop all day, every day to know what's going on in the agency.
That's good. Okay, Asana. And then what about AI? So are you using AI? AI has kind of changed the game for a lot of people in marketing as well. So do you have a favorite AI tool?
So we combine Gemini because we're a Google shop. And so we pay for Google. So we have Gemini and Firefly. But then we also like kind of A B test what ChatGPT has to say and add to the game. So those would be kind of like our three main AI tools. other than things that are built in, like Adobe has a lot built in, Microsoft now has a lot built in, Canva has AI built in. So we're using, as marketers, we're using tons of AI to build frameworks, do planning, do scheduling, content calendars, things like that, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, yeah, Canva has it built in now, and then the scheduling, now it's easy, even for me with my podcast, I can schedule 3, 4, 5 posts into the future and know when they're gonna be gone instead of having to remember the day after.
Yes, it has gotten a lot better. A lot better.
And then when you're adding to your team for, additional resources and skills, do you hire full-time, contractors? Do you use outsourced vendors or projects, or do you like to use fractionals?
So we have definitely a mix of full time and contractors primarily. There have been times when we need to outsource a project because it's not 100% in our wheelhouse. We've not done much with fractional yet. So I see that as something maybe as we're continuing to grow, more of like a C-level fractional to help with strategic planning and those kinds of things down the road.
Alright, so I know you've been in business now for over or 30 years, so happy anniversary again.
Yeah.
What is your proudest achievement as a business owner, and how did it happen? This is the storytelling part.
Yeah. So I think, huh, I think there are so many achievements and mistakes. And so as we go into this part of the interview, I'm going to say this may not be like the only proud achievement I have as an entrepreneur because there are so many. But I think this story resonates quite a bit for your listeners. And so I want to tell a story about a phone call I got one day. It was from a woman who I didn't know. And she reached out and I picked up the phone for whatever reason, right? Like you kind of wonder sometimes why you pick up the phone with someone that you know you don't know. But I picked up the phone and she just very quickly was like, "Hey, Wendy, I also am a woman entrepreneur in the community. I've been on your website. I see that you work with manufacturers and distributors, which was a big target market for us at the time. And I work with those types of people too. And I have something I want to share with you if you'll have coffee with me that I think will make a big difference in your business." And I agreed to have coffee. And I always say, try to agree to have coffee because you just never know what amazing information you're going to get over coffee. So I joined her for coffee one morning and she introduced me to something called the Value Builder System. So she was a consultant that works with people or still is consulting with people who are going to sell their business. And so she did some brokerage, but a lot of what she did was strategy. And so she introduced me to the Value Builder system, which is a system that she used to help her clients understand what they needed to do in their businesses to make it have a higher value when they came to sell their businesses. And the Value Builder system has multiple parts. But out of the parts that it has, there were three that touched on what we do as a marketing and branding agency. One is differentiation, or they call it monopoly control. Another is getting feedback from clients. And a third is customer service and understanding what the customer's needs are, which for us, we do voice of the customer activities. And so that helps us understand client needs. And so I all of a sudden had an epiphany during coffee with her that we were helping not just as marketers influence sales, because obviously that's what we want to do, but there was a bigger picture there that I could help a business owner gain more value when they are going to sell their business, when they want to merge with another company, or when they're seeking investment capital. And that was huge for me. I came back to the office after that coffee and I talked to my team about it. And we came up with a positioning statement for Hummingbird that is build business value through better branding. And that positioning statement has really brought us to where we are today. It helped me get more respect from C-level executives when I was going into sales meetings. It helps me gain. I remember one day I was on a bus going up to DC for an advocacy day, and we were all going around the bus talking about what we do for a living. And when I introduced myself, I said something about how branding can impact the EBITDA multiplier at the time of sale. And a lady who was on the bus like looked over at me and she said, "What did you say you do again?" And she said, "Are you in marketing?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "I've never heard a marketing person use the word EBITDA." And so it like perked up people's interest when I would be in rooms and I would talk about it. And it still does to this day. And so just tweaking our positioning for larger impact than, doing marketing tactics to improve sales of something tomorrow. This is a really long term impact that I could take forward and build my business and help grow my business with it. So that was a real achievement. It really helped us get over some growth hurdles that we had been facing where we were just trying to sell marketing tactics over and over and over again. And it really tied into my desire to be strategic with clients. And so I would say that was a proud achievement because has really helped me with my growth goal. Can I share one more that has more to do with championing women business owners, Kate?
Yeah, but I love that because you learn how to reframe what you're doing, but what the problem that you're solving, but the impact that you're making and why it's important to the customer, right? Which is the premise of branding is like, what is your key value proposition and differentiator, and why does a customer care, and why are you the solution versus starting with the product or the service that you offer. So I
Exactly.
love that. And I wrote the value builder system because I want to talk to you more.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. And
Yes.
then
How about an achievement about supporting women? Let's talk about part
yeah,
2.
so, like, probably my proudest achievement really is creating the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame because it's a legacy piece for me. When I started my business, I found this group of women within NABO, Greater Raleigh, who were amazing women who had come before me to create businesses and were very successful. This is Darlene Johns, Lana Calloway, Judy Faree, Sheila Hale Ogle. These are women in the Triangle region who had just done amazing things. As time went by, I saw other women doing amazing things, and then I'm mentoring women to help them achieve things. And the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame came around as a way to really document their stories to share with the world because, especially the women who came before me, there was not an internet. So these stories had not been captured. So that's amazing. And then now we're capturing the stories of the women who are coming behind me, even and all along the way, and putting those in places where young women can see them and learn from them and be impacted by them. And so I'm really proud of that. It's 8 years running. As of this year, will have 54 women in the Hall of Fame. And I just see this as a way, it ties into me as a female entrepreneur and the challenges I've faced throughout that lifespan over 30 years, and really helping to, kind of spread the stories, just like you're doing here with your podcast, the stories and the the good and the bad and the pretty and the ugly of being a woman entrepreneur and that journey. And so I'm super super proud of that, and that would be, also on the list, just on in a different vein. Yeah.
I I love that, and like you said, it's the legacy, but it's the celebration and giving other women the recognition and award that they need of what they've achieved, like, giving them the platform and the outlet to do that, and that gala is coming up in I don't know if this is gonna post before that gala happens or not, but that
Right.
gala's about to happen.
It'll happen in November, and it may be right after or right before this goes live. But we're super excited. We're at the Umstead and Cary this year on a Saturday night, and it's going to be amazing. Super excited to be at the Umstead Hotel and Spa. It's just a amazing venue. So, um,
I love a good
very
party, and especially a party celebrating other, successful business women's and female founders. The first NABO event I went to was at the governor's mansion for their gala this
yes,
summer. I joined NABO as to get tickets and to go to that. That was when I joined. And so I'm looking forward to the Women Business Owners Hall of Fame. I've said maybe I'll have an excuse to stay
yes.
before or
Well,
after.
and our block is going to close soon for rooms, and we have a great discount. So get it now for sure. Get it now.
So I know that business ownership is also very challenging, right? No business is all success. People see and are celebrating you with all these awards and achievements and 30 years in business and Women Business Owner Hall of Fame. And I think you've also won some other awards recently for Western Wake. And so but sometimes people don't see all the hard work and the lessons and the failures and the mistakes and the learning opportunities on that growth journey to success. Um, so if you're willing to be vulnerable with us and share just one story about a lesson that you had to learn during your growth journey of owning your business.
Yeah. So there's tons of lessons, but I think as someone who today can very confidently speak in a boardroom about something like EBITDA, I think the fact that I had a huge financial lesson very early in owning a business is what I want to share as the hard lesson. So, when I started the business in 1995, fast forward 2001, just after 9/11, I got married. A few months later in January, I took my brand new husband, who I'd actually known for a really long time. We had been dating for 10 years before we got married, but I took him to a park and made kind of a picnic and broke the idea to him that I thought I might need to file bankruptcy. So that was a moment. And he was very supportive. He had watched the business. I had struggled with the fact that I didn't have funding. I funded the business on credit cards because I came out of college. I had really a lot of credit available to me, but it was credit card debt. The debt had become large, and the percentage rates had become large. And so I couldn't figure out how to get beyond those minimum monthly payments at the time, and there were a lot of them. And then there were vendors in my space at the time. We did a lot of printing for clients, and my printing vendors, oftentimes, even though it was their responsibility to tell me if a file wasn't set up right for printing. They wouldn't necessarily do that. Things would make it to press, things would get delivered, and it wasn't what we wanted it to be to give to the client. And so I would, as someone who didn't really understand what my responsibility was at the time, I would pay to have that work redone over and over and over again. And that was a lot of the debt. Um, so I was in debt because I was trying to take care of clients in the best way possible. And I was paying for things that I probably shouldn't. Well, I wouldn't pay for it today. I would say, absolutely not, printer. You are going to redo this for me, and you're not going to charge me or my client for this because this is your mistake that you didn't point out in pre press that there were problems. But basically, what happened there is I went and spoke with several bankruptcy attorneys. And so, that was not something that I took lightly. It was not something that I wanted to do. And I didn't. So I went and spoke with several bankruptcy attorneys. If I had taken advice with the first two, I would have filed bankruptcy. But when I spoke with the third bankruptcy attorney, he said to me, he listened to my story and he said, "Okay, Wendy, if you hadn't done this, like if you hadn't financed these problems, would you have a successful business that could pay all of your bills today?" And my answer confidently was yes. And so he said, "Well, I think you need to put this idea of bankruptcy that you don't like anyway to the side. And you need to work on building your business and find a way to pay the debt. And you're going to be okay." And thank goodness for him. And, when you're in these moments, like, I don't remember his name, I don't remember who he was. I just know he, like, saved me at that point in time
Yeah.
in my business, right? And so, fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm at a Carrie Chamber event, after hours event, and I met the next person who really changed my life. And his name was Alex Harding. I remember his name. He was a CPA, and I told him a little bit about my story. And he said, "Well, let's get together and let me look at your financials." He helped me at no charge. We put together a payment schedule for all of the credit cards and all of the vendors. And each month I followed that spreadsheet to the like detail, right? And in, under a year, I had paid off 6 digits of debt and my business was on a different track. And I said, I'll never go in debt again, other than to buy like a building or a house or something like that. So I buy my cars cash. I don't go into debt. I pay my bills when they happen. We obviously have credit cards because you can't live in the world without credit cards today with online purchases and those kinds of things. But those credit cards get paid off immediately. I've established great credit. I have large lines of credit that I don't use very often. And I've learned how to read a balance sheet. I've learned how to read a P&L. I've learned what EBITDA is. I've learned how to value a business. And I just think that setback was one of the best things that I think could have ever happened because today I have a financial focus. And all of what I do. And sometimes that works against me because I'm really hard on myself when it comes to sales and meeting numbers. And a lot of people tell me, "Hey, Wendy, you need to take the pressure off and it'll come." And so I do struggle with that because that pressure comes from a deep rooted history, not because I just want to think about money or I just want to make money, but because I don't want to be on the other side of it again.
Right.
And so, the advice I would give out of that is to not just find a good CPA and trust them, but to really try to understand, get a good understanding. Yes, you can, outsource your finance, but you need to understand it enough to recognize if something is going wrong. I had a bookkeeper at one point in time that I outsourced to, and she was not doing things right. And because I had the background that I had, I was able to see the problem really fast and take the steps that I needed to take to change it. I don't believe if I had not had a really good understanding of financials, I think that would have gone on too long and it would have been really bad. It wasn't a situation where anything was being stolen. It was more of a really tight cash flow situation, and things were not being allocated correctly within our bookkeeping system. So, I just encourage you to understand your finances at a pretty granular level so that you can feel comfortable letting them go when you need to grow and when you need to have someone else help you.
I love that story for so many reasons because it's the definition of resiliency. You were at the brink of bankruptcy, and if you had taken first advice and not sought three opinions, you might have not had the 30-year anniversary celebration of Hummingbird Creative Group that you just had. you probably would have folded, went bankrupt, and then went and found a corporate job or something
Right.
possibly, right? Like taking the
Absolutely.
easy path, push the exit button, but also that you took that and said, I need to be responsible and learn the finance side of the business. And so as a CEO, we have to be able to know all the parts of the business. You don't have to do them all. You can delegate them,
Right.
but you need to know what's going on. And if you're not a salesperson, you need to know what's happening in sales. You need to know what's happening in marketing and finance and operations so that you know when there is something going wrong and you can call that out and prevent that from becoming a bigger problem. You can still delegate, like you said. I still can outsource my accounting to a CPA or an outsourced bookkeeping firm, but you need to know. I love that you taught yourself the finances because I would argue that there's a lot of CEOs who don't understand all of the different functions and parts of the business that they are running.
Well, and I think there's a lot of chatter out there, and there always has been for entrepreneurs. You have to be able to let go if you want to grow, right? Like that's the lesson, and I totally agree with that. But I also believe you have to understand before you let go, so that you can re-steer the ship. And I mean, that's here at Hummingbird. I understand the creative piece. I understand account management. I understand the finances. I understand the operational pieces and the softwares. That doesn't mean I have to be the one doing it every day, but it does mean when something goes wrong, I can help very quickly make the decision of how to steer it better and get us back on track. And I think that's really, really the important part of what you're saying too, Kate.
Yeah, I love that lesson. And I wrote that as the quote because I have to get a quote.
Love it.
So now talk to me about what's next, what's happening in the future. What is on the plan for the rest of this year for you?
Yeah, so the rest of this year, so 2025 has been a little bit of a reset button. Our target markets have changed because the socioeconomic and political world has changed. And so we're seeing very different opportunities in different target markets. So it's been a bit of a reset because we thought we were, tracking in certain vertical markets, and all of that's changed just this year. And so I'd say my main focus in 2025 has been understanding the reset. Like, what do we need to do? But for 2026, I think we're back on a really good growth path. And so that's the focus for 2026.
So what's your first step towards this goal?
Yeah. So it's funny because I feel like I've never been good at leveraging. So I want to say leverage is a first step. And someone talked to me about leverage earlier this week on my podcast. And I thought what she said was really interesting. She said, you can't have leverage if the relationship isn't there first. And, I have served on so many boards and I have been a part of so many things. And people say, well, you should leverage all of those relationships that you have through all of those things you do. But I do a lot of things. I don't like anyone. I can't have deep relationships with all of those people. And so I'm kind of reanalyzing what I can leverage and how I need to evaluate the way I go into organizations that I'm in a leadership role with or things that I'm volunteering to do in a way so that I can create relationships that might be able to be leveraged in the future. Because I never looked at it that way. I never had that intent. Um, but and it's not that I wanna just have the intent to leverage everybody. That certainly isn't what I mean, but just seeing those opportunities, I think, and making sure that I form deeper connections with people when I can, in case I need to leverage it at some point in time. I think more intentionality around relationships is something that I'd like to work on.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are some people that are natural givers and are always giving and volunteering, and it's hard to even you're there as the representative of the nonprofit. This has happened to me as well on the board. It's hard to even represent the company that you work for and ask if, do the sales or the intentional networking or the ask for the business.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think, part of how I'm going to get through this, I think, is more storytelling. I don't always take the opportunity to tell my story to people around me. And I think it's really important that I remember to do that. I've been trying to watch other people who do that well because I tend to just kind of take a step back and not put it all out there. And I think I need to find better ways to find kind of those places where I can tell a story and then people feel more connected to me as well.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe it's the one-on-one afterwards in the coffee conversation that takes
Right.
it to the next level, that becomes, because people want to do business with people that they know and trust. And you have the visibility, but then it's the getting into the deeper connection and conversation. And
Right.
I struggle um same way. Do you see any obstacles in your way besides what you've already shared?
I think for me, and this is not a one word answer by any means, and none of them have been. We're in a digital world now, and I've always been a face to face kind of person. And so, in some ways, I think the digital world is going to be able to give me the opportunity to tell the story more than I would face to face. But it's uncomfortable. It's change. And so for me, just like that change of where I'm appearing and how I'm appearing and trying to get more comfortable with the fact that a lot of sales process and new business development and even relationship building is happening online, and that's weird and different for me as an ex-gener. I'm just not I'm still not there, and I try to embrace technology at every turn and learn it and get myself to embrace it, but that change has been a bit of an obstacle, so far, so hopefully I can continue to overcome it.
Yeah, I think video calls help over phone calls, but also I better in person and I'm better one on one than I am in a group setting. If you know, a large or a larger online community. But yeah, I hear you. It's like, how do we connect when everyone wants to stay home and they don't want to go out and have
Right.
coffees and lunches and they're not all in an office together? And
Well, and there's a
um,
deeper piece of that too, because now that we through the pandemic, we started doing online calls. My schedule's too full for me to get in a car. And I don't like that. It's call after call after call after call, and then I have to get to a networking event, and so I'm either taking the calls in the car or I'm driving and then sitting in the car taking the calls, and I don't feel as professional. I don't feel like I'm taking good enough notes when I'm working that way. I don't feel like I remember things as well when I'm working that way as I did when I was sitting down with people over coffee. It's just very different. And so I know we're all navigating it, and it's 2025. Like, we're 5 years from when this all started, but it's just still it's a lot. It's a lot to manage, how to, like, navigate all of that still.
I agree. And then if you have the AI attend the call to take the notes, you're not manually taking the notes. I don't think we remember it as much too because we're reliant on the AI to do the note taking and the action items. And so I don't know that the retention is there. Like I used to be really great at remembering people's names and faces and like things about them when we would meet in person. And you're right, you might have had 3 meetings in person throughout the day because you were driving in between a coffee and a lunch and a
Right?
networking
Now we've
event.
got, like, 8, one right
And you
after the
you could
other,
spend 2 hours, right, with a
30-minute
person.
meetings. It's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Resilient Entrepreneur Show and
thank
podcast. It's been really
you."
great to share your story, to hear your story, and thank you for being a female founder, role model, and business owner in our community here in Raleigh, but also for sharing your story and your journey about the resiliency that it took to be here celebrating 30 years in business. So I really appreciate you being a guest on our show.
I appreciate you having me, Kate. Thank you so much.
And then my last question is, now that you've been on the show, who do you recommend for me to interview next?
So, have you interviewed Dr. Sarah Glova yet?
Not, and I
Okay.
know her and I've seen her speak, and I know she had a TED Talk, so she's a great
Yes.
recommendation.
She is amazing, and she is the best podcast guest ever. Um, she will make you think as much as, she answers your questions. And she has a media business that she's had quite a long time, and then she's also pivoted and started doing more of the speaking, and became a doctor, which I'm so proud of her. And I've just been there to see her resilience as she moved from owning her agency into becoming this amazing world traveling speaker, and I think she would be great for you to interview on this show.
I love that recommendation. Yeah, I know more about her speaking than her other business, from what I've seen, but I know we're in the same circles, but not directly connected. So thank you for that recommendation. If you want to do an intro, I would love to have her as a guest. All right.
Yes,
This
sounds
has been so
great.
much fun. I really appreciate you being on the show. And I look forward to seeing you at one of our local women business owner events soon.
Sounds great. I hope to see you soon, Kate. Take care.